Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
First warm day, so I'm excited.
A blast of heat sees some British Columbians flock to the beach while prompting a warning from BC Wildfire Service. Plus,
it sends a really bad message about the public being able to access mineral hot springs, public hot springs.
Residents in Harrison Hot Springs are baffled after a fence is erected around a natural hot springs they've used for years. And
access to transportation in smaller communities is even more troublesome than in big cities.
5 years after it first hit the road in Metro Vancouver, rideshare giant Uber is expanding province-wide, but it has some existing rideshare and cab companies expressing concern.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Janella Hamilton. Thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news. Police in West Vancouver say one person is dead and another has been seriously injured in a vehicle collision near the Horseshoe Bay Ferry Terminal. Police say it involved a TransLink bus and happened around 3:30 this afternoon. We don't know what led to the collision, but roads remain blocked off in the area, and police are asking people to avoid the area as well. Horseshoe Bay Business Association writing on Facebook that it has canceled its food showcase event called Taste of the Bay. West Vancouver Mayor Mark Sager expressed profound sadness for those impacted by the tragedy. CBC has a reporter on scene. We will continue to bring you updates. You can follow this story on our website at cbc.ca/BC. A burst of hot weather has settled in across much of the province, with some inland temperatures climbing past 30 degrees Celsius. As Renee Lucas reports, the balmy weather has sparked some warnings, but won't be sticking around.
All across the province, people are finding ways to take advantage of this first taste of summer heat.
Had some leftovers. We thought we'd just come to the beach and, enjoy with them.
Just tanning, just meeting some friends. We might play volleyball.
We were building a fence this morning and had to stop because it was too hot and sunny, and decided to go and enjoy the afternoon instead.
We're gonna cook some food, hopefully play some sports on the beach, and maybe go for a swim.
Temperatures are on the rise across BC, ranging from 20 degrees on the island to 34 degrees in the interior. Meteorologists say today's temperatures are warmer than normal.
5 to 10, maybe up to 12 degrees above normal. So definitely it's warmer than we normally see, but not completely unseasonal.
Still, the hot weather can pose challenges. Environment and Climate Change Canada issued a special weather statement for the North Thompson region, warning residents to watch for the effects of heat illness and avoid leaving pets and people inside parked vehicles, as a ridge of high pressure pushes temperatures there into the mid-30s.
What follows a ridge is usually lots of wind and a potential for thunderstorms. Now, these thunderstorms, they could bring new wildfire starts to certain regions of the province.
BC Wildfire cautions anyone enjoying the backcountry to be careful doing anything that may spark a wildfire.
Meanwhile, people here are making the most of the sun while it lasts. Environment Canada's forecasting rain for most parts of the province tonight and tomorrow. Renee Lucas, CBC News, Vancouver.
Thousands of people are being forced from their homes in the prairies as wildfires continue to spread. Flin Flon, Manitoba is among those communities placed under evacuation orders. That province has now declared a state of emergency. A team working at the Saskatchewan-Manitoba border near Flin Flon barely escaped as flames reached them. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency says nearly all fires burning in the province were caused by humans. Darius Madavi is here now with a look at that fire danger. Darius?
Yes, so we've got a number of fires burning in northern Manitoba, and I want to start by just mentioning the fire danger remains high to extreme across the prairies. If we zoom in here to Flin Flon, you can see just how close that fire perimeter is coming to the community, and we can also see that temperatures are nearing or exceeding 30 degrees across much of this region. This is current temperatures, and they've already started to come down for today. Those temperatures have been in place for a few days and will continue for the next few days. Bit of good news, those winds have calmed down. They're blowing away from the community right now. But once we get into Friday night, that's when the danger really starts to come in. I've frozen in here. You can see those winds blowing towards the community and exceeding 50 kilometers per hour. So that's something to watch for. And then the fire near the Pidachitimac Cree First Nation, also something to be watching. This fire here around Cross Lake, also a bit of a risk. We're going to talk more about our fire danger here in BC and the hot temperatures we're seeing, as well as the risk of thunderstorms tomorrow later in the show.
Thanks so much, Darius.
Thank you.
Community leaders in Harrison Hot Springs are frustrated after a resort put up a fence around the village's natural pools. But provincial officials said they gave the plan the green light. John Hernandez reports.
It might look like private property, but these natural mineral pools are on public land.
This is terrible. It's a mistake.
Local Mayor Fred Talon says he had to see it to believe it. The fence erected over the weekend by the nearby Harrison Hot Springs Resort and Spa. Village leaders say they were never given a heads up.
It's not going to work, and it sends a really, really bad message about the public being able to access mineral hot springs, public hot springs.
Last year, the springs were mysteriously filled with dirt and boulders. The resort, which uses the spring to feed its own private pools, has been ordered to return them to their natural state. The province says it approved a plan to put up a fence ahead of the work, but officials said public access should still be allowed.
We've got staff going on Thursday just to make sure that the fence isn't getting in the way of folks being able to access those kind of natural hot springs in that area.
CBC News has reached out to the resort for comment. Some users soured by the fence, but not letting it stop them from accessing the pools.
Before this resort was even here, these hot springs were used very freely by the public. It's called Harrison Hot Springs, not Harrison Resort Spa.
Local leaders say they aren't holding any grudges against the resort and instead wish the province gave clearer instructions on how the restoration work should be done.
I think there's some room for some more provincial guidance on this, if you will. And the resort, I think the fence is a mistake, but in the broader context, the resort has deep ties to the village.
A government-led investigation into who filled the springs is ongoing. The province says the fence will come down as soon as these springs are back to their natural state. John Hernandez, CBC News, Harrison Hot Springs.
Unifor held a rally outside of the BC legislature in support of transit workers who have been on strike for more than 15 weeks in the Cowichan Valley. The bus and handy dart workers have not yet reached an agreement on pensions, washroom breaks, and wages.
Most importantly, a respectable wage that recognizes the fact that bus drivers in the Cowichan Valley have service into and out of Victoria and yet get paid significantly less than Victoria drivers. So we're here to rally behind our workers.
Negotiators with the union and Transdev reached a tentative agreement in April, but it was rejected by union employees. The mayor of North Cowichan is calling on the province to step in as members of the community are becoming increasingly frustrated with the lack of transit. Uber is finally going province-wide, moving into smaller regional communities like Nanaimo, where some worry it could impact smaller competitors. Claire Palmer reports.
Michael Van Hemmen is the BC-based head of rideshare for Uber in Canada. For him, expanding BC-wide is a no-brainer.
The rollout of ride-sharing across British Columbia has exceeded our expectations. We know it's an expensive place to live. Owning a car is expensive, and so if you can get away, instead of owning 2 cars and you can have a family and get away with 1 car and use transit and Uber for your other rides, you're saving money.
Uber says it wants to fill in the gaps in transportation throughout the province.
Access to transportation in smaller communities is even more troublesome than in big cities. You know, Vancouver has a SkyTrain, has bus service that comes, as frequently as every 5 minutes in places. Places like Nanaimo, Courtenay, Comox, Parksville doesn't have that same reliability. So Uber can help fill some of those gaps, especially to help, say, seniors get to appointments.
Uber first came to Vancouver in 2020 and more recently rolled into Victoria and Kelowna in 2023. Nanaimo's mayor says it bodes well for bringing people into Nanaimo's downtown core, with tourism rising. And it means Uber sees potential in BC's economy.
I think it reflects general confidence in the economy. We're certainly a busy, fast-growing area, and Uber expects it could make some money here.
However, Krog is worried about the impact it could have on local cab companies. U-Ride is a Canadian startup that provides an alternative to Uber. They're currently operating in 8 cities in BC, including Nanaimo and Courtney Comox on the island.
And right now, you got this battle in Nanaimo, again, $150 billion US giant against like kind of the local Canadian rideshare company.
Roberto says he's not worried after what he saw in Kelowna in 2023.
And what we saw was when Uber launched, they basically did different incentives and different things to try to basically get all the drivers to switch. Some drivers did switch. And then over time, what we saw was most of the drivers came back.
Uber says they'll be working on building up their driver base after the launch and that it expects things to be in full swing in the months to come. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
This is the last week of the spring sitting at the BC Legislature. But before MLAs break for summer, they are expected to vote on a controversial bill tonight, the Infrastructure Projects Act. If passed, it will speed up the approval process for hospitals, schools and bridges and private projects as long as they're projects of provincial significance. The bill has been criticized as creating broad powers and opening the doors for different interpretations from future governments. First Nations groups have promised a legal challenge if it passes. The CBC has obtained documents detailing the investigation of an alleged $500 million mortgage fraud case. It involves a so-called shadow mortgage broker who got help from about 24 real estate professionals. Jason Proctor has more.
Jay Kanth Chowdhury, who once had a registration but then was suspended in 2008 from being a mortgage broker. But, we know that he kept on doing this, basically, but using a front of people. So all these, about 24 people, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, with their licenses, he would fake documents and then they would submit them to banks on his behalf, for people who, otherwise would not qualify for this. So the regulator in this, the BC Financial Services Agency, has looked into this. But, there's always been this question, as you say, about charges and why nothing, has ever come of that, because we know that they sort of were looking at. So I got these documents that suggest or that talk about how they went to the Vancouver Police. They went to RCMP, and they also went to the Canada Revenue Agency, asking them to, take their legwork and do something with this. But ultimately, they found out last summer 2024, that, the CRA, which had been the only agency to take this up, had dropped the case. From the email that the CRA criminal investigators sent to the BC FSA, the regulator, a technicality brought the case to an end as far as the Public Prosecution Service went, because they said they decided not to lay charges because of a technicality. But we don't know the nature of the technicality, basically because they won't say it, and the RCMP won't say, even confirm the identity of people who've been under investigation or not. So really, basically this sort of ends up being a bit of a mystery, but we know just a bit more because essentially we know that the charges had gone to approval, and then this technicality dooms them. The CRA inspector said that assessments had been done, because remember, you have numerous people who submitted false tax documents who, presumably have income they're not declaring. So that is something we might look at. But tax stuff is very kind of hard to see into, let's say. So, really, as for now, the regulators completed all of its things. We've seen, as I say, people fined up to $50,000, cancellations, etc., but nothing more from that.
A call for change. The family of a woman who died in support of housing and wasn't found for 11 days pay a visit to the legislature. That story and more coming up after the break.
I'm Stephen Quinn, and I love living here in Vancouver, BC. It's a city with world-renowned beauty, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. In our new daily podcast, This is Vancouver, we're exploring the diverse range of issues and stories in the city, the good, the bad, and everything in between, as told by the people who live it every day. Don't miss This Is Vancouver, available wherever you get your podcasts, and I'll talk to you soon.
New Westminster's Queen Park Arena is going to have one less flag hanging from its rafters. City Council has voted to remove a large American flag that has been there for decades. It comes amid growing tensions with our neighbors to the south.
The more I looked into it, I realized that we simply don't have any American teams that are playing at the Queen's Park Arena anymore. Those days are long gone. So I just simply thought the time is now, given everything that's happening down south, as well as the fact that we don't have a City of New Westminster flag there, to take it down.
The American flag will be replaced by a municipal one. The son of a BC woman whose body sat in a supportive housing unit for 11 days before being discovered was at the legislature today. Diane Chandler was battling depression and addictions issues when she moved into Surrey's Foxglove housing. Her children believed she would be safe. The CBC's Michelle Gassoub helped break this story. I spoke with her earlier today.
Yeah, what Tyler Gibbs said was that he believes that the province failed his mother. She was living in supportive housing in Surrey. She died of an overdose in her room there. And as you said, it took 11 days for staff to find her body. That's despite the fact that staff there were signing off on wellness checks saying that she was alive and well. Take a listen to Tyler speaking from Victoria.
She deserved better, and this government failed her. And I've been struggling to deal with this for about a year now.
Now, CBC News first broke this story through emails we accessed through Freedom of Information request. It basically revealed it was a case of mistaken identity that was to blame. So staff saw a woman that they believed was Diane Chandler. They signed off that she was okay, but that was a completely different person. It took 11 days for them to then find Diane Chandler. When they found her deceased, they went to the other person's room. They also found that that person had died of an overdose. Now, the official opposition in BC is now raising this as an issue, saying there is clearly some kind of issue going on with wellness checks in supportive housing, also raising concerns about the level of drug use in these facilities.
There's a deeper issue here, and I don't think it's around wellness checks. It's around encouraging open drug use in supportive housing facilities and, warehousing addiction. We need to make sure that we're encouraging treatment in these facilities. We need to make sure that people have an option between the two. We need to make sure that people that are coming out of treatment aren't being put into wet facilities.
Janella, we're still waiting to hear from the province on this issue.
The land around West Colona, reduced to ashes by a 2023 wildfire, is sprouting up some surprising color. It includes a sea of green and a variety of flower not seen before by the woman who lived there for decades. Chris Walker reports.
Lise Guillot is walking through her old garden in the hills outside Kelowna. She lived on this land for 40 years, built a home, raised her family here. But 2 years ago, wildfire turned everything here to ash. Where their house once stood, just a hole. But now, the property and her garden is regrowing in surprising new ways.
This right here, of course, is fireweed, right? So behind me here, where you see all these burnt trees and the sea of green, is fireweed. It's owning its name because we never had fireweed on the property before. Trees are really big and they have all the branches and the needles, and they take all the sunlight and the space. So obviously, when it burns, then all the plants underneath are saying, "Woo, we got sunshine now."
It's not just in the woods either. It's in her old garden, too.
These beauties right here. I transplanted a lot of my perennials in the city where we live now, and my Japanese anemone are done, and here they're in full bloom.
Old Japanese anemone and poppies, even roses, hidden behind a deer fence. The deer no longer interested. It's not the same place anymore, but all the new life keeps Lise connected to her old land.
I just want to kind of sometimes lie on the ground and roll around. Really, I do. And it's just because then you remember all those things and you still feel it, right?
Yeah.
When you come back here.
Chris Walker, CBC News, Kelowna.
Hot heat and plenty of sun, mid-20s by the water today in White Rock. Darius has your full provincial forecast next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox.
CBC celebrates Asian Heritage Month through the language of movement, where every step tells a story. Throughout the month of May, we're shining a spotlight on Asian dance groups, showcasing the dynamic blend of classical, folk, and contemporary dance forms. These talented dance groups share their cultural heritage through stories and traditions, knowledge, and technique. Read and watch their stories at cbc.ca/bc.
Darius Madavi is back with a look at our weather, starting off with the fire danger around the province tonight. Darius?
Yes, and I know people are outside enjoying the sunshine right now. Soak it in while it's here. I know there's already some cloud moving in across Metro Vancouver, and we're going to see that change pretty quickly as we get into tomorrow, virtually across the province. For now, fire danger is very high. We've seen those high temperatures and dry conditions really drying out those fuels, especially in the southern interior. And we're going to see some rain and thunderstorms moving through the region tomorrow. Really more thunderstorms than there's rain, unfortunately, because the possibility of dry lightning could mean new fire starts. But first, let's talk about the weather here on the south coast. We've got high temperatures, especially for those inland areas, many places hitting 30 degrees, like up in Squamish, Abbotsford, inland parts of the island as well, nearing or hitting 30 degrees. Once we get to tomorrow, those temperatures drop very quickly. I mean, with the humidex, Abbotsford, for instance, felt like 34 today. It's going to be dropping down to 19 tomorrow. So 15-degree difference, dressed a little bit differently probably. The temperatures start to recover on Friday, and then on Saturday they start to moderate a little bit again, coming down a couple degrees. Not quite as significant a drop as we saw, or we will see tomorrow compared to today. That rain is going to move through pretty quickly. Most places seeing about 4 to 6 hours of rain overnight tonight, maybe a few showers lingering here on the mainland into early tomorrow morning, and then that next wave of precipitation doesn't come in for a little while yet. Temperatures in the interior also very, very high right now. Kamloops nearing 35 degrees. Tomorrow, temperatures drop pretty significantly, but still in the mid-20s. Those temperatures start to come back up on Friday and moderate a little bit once again on Saturday. And again, we're going to see that rain move in. Mostly the risk of dry lightning is confined to the southern interior, but thunderstorms also possible in the southeast and the Caribou region. Again, thunderstorms across the board tomorrow. Watch out for that. Other than that, Janella, the weekend looks a little bit cooler, a little bit unsettled, potential for some showers, but overall should be some sunshine over the next few days.
All right. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News. To keep up to date with all the latest news, you can visit our website at cbc.ca/bc. Hope you have a great night.